Somewhere on the frozen northern frontier of the Roman Empire, in a cold military tent lit by a single oil lamp, the most powerful man alive is writing a note to himself. There is a war outside. There is a plague tearing through his legions. He is exhausted, and he is not young, and he knows it. And in the middle of all of this, he writes down a thought that sounds, at first, almost disturbing. He reminds himself that he could die at any moment, not someday. Now, today. Before he finishes the sentence, his name is Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, and this was not a moment of despair. It was a tool, the single sharpest tool he owned. He returned to the same thought, again and again, for years, on purpose. And the reason he did it is the reason we are talking about it 2,000 years later. Here is the strange part. The Romans had a name for this practice. They called it Memento Mori, which simply means, remember that you must die. And to modern ears, that sounds morbid, even depressing. We spend enormous energy avoiding the thought of death. We push it to the far edge of the mind and refuse to look at it. But the Stoics did the exact opposite. They walked straight toward it, and they did this not because they were gloomy, but because they had noticed something about human beings that almost no one wants to admit. The thing that quietly wastes your life is not laziness. It is the deep, unspoken belief that you have unlimited time. Think honestly about how procrastination actually works. You do not put things off because you believe they do not matter. You put them off because somewhere deep down, you assume there will always be a later. Tomorrow you will start. Next week, you will call them. Next year, you will finally change. The whole machinery of delay runs on one hidden assumption, that the future is a vast, endless field, and you can afford to leave the important things for some part of it that has not arrived yet. We treat our days like an infinite resource, and because they feel infinite, we spend them carelessly. The way a person spends money, they believe will never run out. And this is where the Stoics make their move. The problem, they argue, is not that life is short. The problem is that we waste enormous amounts of it while telling ourselves we have plenty left. Seneca, the great Roman Stoic, wrote an entire essay on exactly this, called On the Shortness of Life. And the line at its heart cuts straight through every excuse we have ever made. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested." Read that slowly. He is not saying life is tragically brief. He is saying it is long enough, more than long enough, if you stop pouring it down the drain. The tragedy is not the length of the river. The tragedy is how much of it we let run off into nothing while we wait for a better day to begin living. So how does remembering death fix this? Because death is the one fact that destroys the illusion of unlimited time. The moment you genuinely accept that your days are numbered and that you do not know the number, the entire calculation changes. Suddenly, the question is no longer, when should I get around to this? The question becomes, if my time is finite, is this worth doing right now, or is it not worth doing at all? Memento Mori is not about fearing the end. It is about using the end to bring everything else into focus. A finite life forces you to choose, and choosing is the opposite of procrastinating. This is exactly how Marcus Aurelius used it. He did not write about death to frighten himself. He wrote about it to make his decisions clean. In his private journal, The Meditations, in Book 2, he gave himself this instruction: you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Let that determine what you do. That is the whole technique in a single sentence. Before you speak, before you act, before you waste another hour on something that does not matter, hold up the simple fact that this could be the last time. Not to create panic, but to create weight. To make the trivial fall away on its own. Because Trivial things cannot survive contact with the thought of death. Pettiness, endless scrolling, grudges, the meeting you are rehearsing arguments about, the task you keep avoiding out of mild discomfort, all of it shrinks the instant you remember the clock is running. And Marcus Aurelius pushed this further, into something even more practical. He turned Memento Mori into a daily standard for how to do the work in front of him. In Book 2 of the Meditations, he wrote, "Do every act of your life as though it were the last, laying aside all carelessness and passionate aversion from the commands of reason and all hypocrisy and self-love and discontent with the portion which has been given to thee." Do every act as though it were the last. Notice what this does. It is not a command to rush or to cram your days full of frantic activity. It is a command to bring your full attention and your full integrity to whatever you are actually doing right now, because there may not be a do-over. If this conversation were your last, you would not phone it in. If this piece of work were your last, you would not do it carelessly. If this ordinary afternoon were your last, you would not throw it away. Memento Mori takes the thing you were going to put off, or do halfway, and asks, would you really leave it like this, knowing what you know? There is one more layer here, and it is the layer that makes the practice livable instead of terrifying. The Stoics paired the thought of death with the thought of nature. Everything that lives, dies. The leaf, the lion, the emperor, the slave. Marcus reminded himself constantly that he was a small part of a vast and changing universe, and that his death was not some cosmic injustice, but simply the most ordinary thing in the world. And strangely, that thought brings peace. Because if death is natural and certain, then there is no point being paralyzed by it. The only thing left to do is to use the time you have well. The fear of death and the wasting of life come from the same place, the refusal to look directly at the fact that your time is limited. Look at it directly, and both lose their grip. So here is the practice, stripped to its bones, the way a Stoic would actually run it. Once a day, ideally in the morning, remind yourself plainly that your life is finite, and you do not know how much remains. Then let that single fact do its work on your to-do list. The things that suddenly feel urgent and real. The call you keep avoiding. The work you keep delaying. The way you have been treating the people around you. Those are the things that matter. The things that suddenly feel absurd. The petty worry. The wasted scroll. The task you only do to look busy. Let them fall away. You are not trying to be morbid. You are trying to stop pretending you have forever. Marcus Aurelius did not have unlimited time, and he knew it. And that knowledge is exactly why he got so much done while ruling an empire at war. He used death not as a source of dread, but as a source of clarity every single day. And the remarkable thing is that you can do the same with one honest sentence, said quietly to yourself each morning. You could leave life right now. So what, today, is actually worth doing? If this gave you something useful, subscribe, because every week we take one Stoic idea and show exactly why it still holds up. In the next video, we look at how to stop overthinking using a 2,000-year-old method from Epictetus, the same idea that quietly became the foundation of modern therapy.